Layering hot patinas. In this video, we'll talk about layering hot traditional patinas. First, we need to clean the metal. Here I'm using a 400 grit on an orbital sander, and typically I like to use 180 grit, but for those of you who work with copper already, you know that typically the rougher the grit, the more likely you will see it through a patina. So if you use 180 grit, there's a good chance that you might see the pattern that is created from that grit through the patina, and I want to try and avoid that. So definitely do a sample when you go up to this high of grit to make sure that the patina and everything goes smoothly from there on out. But here I'm using the 400 grit, and then we're going to go in with the Sculpt Nouveau metal cleaner, and I'm just going to spray it on, and I'm not going to Scotch-Brite it this time. So you really got to make sure that you're starting with a very clean surface to do this, so you don't have to Scotch-Brite and you can avoid some of those scratches. And again, it's just so that we don't see the scratches or the burnish marks through the patina, because the hot patinas are typically more transparent, especially when you get into the brown patinas. The greens and blues and everything can be more opaque, but those browns and blacks are usually pretty transparent. So here we're going to start with the ferric nitrate, ferric chloride, and it's kind of like the ferric nitrate, but the ferric nitrate goes a little bit more golden brown. This one will go a little bit more orangey brown, so it creates a little bit of a different look, but it's a nice kind of almost a mute orangey brown. So it's not overpowering. For hot patinas, you want to be about 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit with the heat, and so that's why I'm applying it with the torch. You can see that's just enough to get the mist that comes off when you apply the patina, and that's what you're looking for. You just want it to kind of mist off. You don't want it to pool off or into one puddle, and you don't want it to skid off, because that means it's too hot. And it's very normal to see a lot of the patina kind of start developing a little bit more when you go back to reheat up the metal. Usually you'll see a little bit more of the reaction take place there as well. You should start seeing, you can see it when you apply the patina, it starts changing, but there might be a little bit more as you heat it up. And typically what I go for here is I'm just trying to get kind of a more solid color throughout. For a base patina, that's your goal, is to not let it look like a copper panio anymore. You just want it to kind of change the color, and ultimately what you want is you want to see kind of a layer. You want to see multiple colors coming through on something like this, so that when we go in with the cupric nitrate on this next step, we don't start with a bright copper finish. We're going to start with this kind of muted down, kind of brown, so it kind of already looks a little aged, a little antique-y. So if we don't do a solid opaque coat of the cupric nitrate, what we see through is the ferric nitrate, ferric chloride base. And that's one of the big reasons to doing a layered hot patina process. Now you can do a cold process for the base. There's nothing wrong with that. And in this video, I chose to go with a standard hot process throughout. Definitely makes you kind of move a little bit quicker. You're already heated up. So here I just swapped the bottles out for the cupric nitrate, and I was ready to continue on. So you can see that the cupric nitrate is a little slow to go at it. The ferric nitrate, ferric chloride went a little bit faster, but you can see we're starting to develop some really greenish blues. And typically what you're looking for when you use the cupric nitrate is it should look a little bit like the Statue of Liberty, and that kind of really pale lightish green. And for me, I try not to go with a really thick coat of cupric nitrate. I want to see a lot of that base coming through. To each their own, but I feel like it shows a little bit more. It's one of those things that less is more kind of situations, but it's to each their own. You can apply this to get a nice thick heavy layer. It all depends on what you want to go for. And while I sprayed both the ferric nitrate, ferric chloride, and the cupric nitrate on, you can apply these with a brush or a sponge. Sometimes it's nice to do it with like a sea sponge that we sell in our web store, and that creates a lot of really cool kind of modeling effect. You're not going to have, you can get some globs sometimes from the sprayer, which a lot of the times they'll blend in, or it's not that noticeable. But that C sponge, you can create really kind of rigid lines if you cut it that way, and you can create some really cool movement throughout the piece. So it's another thing to kind of think about when you go to use these patinas, and really all of the patinas. What kind of modeling do you want it? Do you want it completely opaque? Do you want a solid coating? Do you want it kind of transparent? Do you want it really modeled? And those are some of the aspects that you can do with all of these patinas. After this is cooled down, we went ahead and sealed it with the ClearGuard EF matte. And remember, the reason to use the EF matte is because it doesn't darken greens quite as much. If we use the regular, it might have darkened the greens and brought out those browns a little bit more. So lots of choices, and here we have our final piece of Cupric nitrate and ferric nitrate ferric chloride on copper. Ferric nitrate, ferric chloride, and cupric nitrate are both available at www.sculptnouveau.com.